This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 324 for Wednesday, July 3rd, 2019. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. Joining me this afternoon, Megan Townsend is back. You can find her at Megan Townsend on all the social media that matters. Hello, my friend.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing fantastic, and I promised many people many moons ago that I would not start every episode talking about weather. I'm going to break the rules because it rained like cats and dogs over the holiday weekend. And everyone that I talked to was just like, I feel like a shut-in. I cannot wait to go outside. Like, it was 4 days of thunderstorm rain.
I was
bananas.
Really excited about it. I'm going to be honest. Okay. So I'm from Alberta, and Alberta has some of the best thunderstorms I've ever experienced in my whole life. Like window shaking, like sheet lightning, like letting up the whole sky type of thunder with like big rumbling booms. And ever since I moved here, I've always been like, man, our thunderstorms are like super weak. Like, I love a good thunderstorm. So when this one happened the other day, like I was woken up by a clap of lightning, and I was just, clap of thunder, that's what it was. And I was really excited by it. I was like, oh yes, this is a good thing. It just felt really nice. I was just in my bed. I was comfy. I could hear the rain. I could see the lightning. I could hear the thunder. And I was like, it's good. It was a good morning for me. I was really into it.
Yes, I
personally
don't mind storms when they're at a time of day when I would be doing nothing else other than eating breakfast. And just, I didn't watch anything on TV over breakfast that morning. I was just kind of eating breakfast and watching the storm. It was great. And I love the sound of heavy rain. I have lot of trees in my backyard. I live in a flat roof building on the 3rd floor. So when it rains hard, like, I will be interrupted. I will be taking my headphones out going like, what is that noise? And it's because of, how loud the rain can be. But yeah, when it comes to like holiday weekends, and this past weekend was Canada Day here in Canada, for those that don't know, there's a lot of outdoors activities. People don't tend to plan like indoor parties for Canada Day. It's usually barbecues, hikes, outside events, fireworks, things like that. The fireworks still happened, which I was disappointed because I completely forgot about them. I just assumed they were canceled. I was stupidly.
They weren't very long.
No,
I ran down to try and go see them, and they literally lasted 5 minutes.
Yeah, I can hear them and sometimes see them from my apartment, and I didn't bother. Just was like, wow, crap, because normally I would just walk down. It's only a short 15-minute walk to the waterfront to see them. If you want to brave the crowds, which is sometimes I'm not in the mood for. More
which
fun.
Is very fair.
Well, it's more fun when you get a couple people and you can just go for a beer after, or that sort of thing. And I do like fireworks, but I just thought like, well, I'm probably not missing much, and they're probably shooting them pretty low, and there's not, it's not the same as when it's a wide open, bright sky. And we were spoiled. I think the last big fireworks display that we had was somewhere around Christmas time. And of course, in the dead of winter, it was like no clouds. It was freezing, but it was a beautiful, clear night.
What was that for?
I think it was the Dartmouth tree lighting was the last time there was some
was
big fireworks.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it's just Dartmouth is where the fireworks are at, my friend. I'm telling you. You got to keep your eye on like the downtown Dartmouth. I think it's the Business Commission. Somebody they always let businesses know when the fireworks are happening because there's a lot of people. And if you want to, if your pizzeria wants to stay open a couple extra hours, you're going to make some money, like that sort of stuff. Also good for like bars and restaurants to know to have extra staff on hand because you're probably going to be quite busy after the fireworks. Now, in a lot of situations, it's usually families where the kids are then being piled into the car and then driven home. But sometimes you'll have some folks that are out, like myself, that
the occasional straggler.
Yeah, where you're just like, well, I don't really want to. I mean, I'm downtown. I might as well just go for a beer or meet a couple friends. And it's the kind of thing where people generally come out anyway, like regardless of whether they, have anything to do. It's because it's such an easy thing. It's free, like you just kind of wander down to the waterfront and check it out. So, so I miss those on the weekend. But in the process of all of the I guess, indoor activities that happened over the weekend. I played a lot of Minecraft. I did a lot of streaming, did some art streams and stuff like that. I actually worked on Monday. We recorded the new episode of the Sponge Chunks. But I was also doing a little bit of reading, catching up on my email, catching up on all of my newsletters. And I wanted to follow up our discussion last week about the environment with a positive news story. I actually have something really cool to share. And it was quirky enough that I was like, wait, what? What is happening? And the headline is Sheep Farmers and Solar Company Form Powerful Partnership. And I thought, okay, what's going on?
All right, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Interest peaked.
So it is a small shepherd, sheep farmer in Ontario. And I'm trying to remember the name of the power company. I think it's ELOS. The EDF Renewables is the name of the solar power company. And they had a problem with their fields of solar panels needing to be kept. So there's grass and weeds and trees and things that block the sun on the lower parts of the solar panels. And of course, that's a problem because you need light to generate power from solar panels.
Right.
So rather than paying like lawn maintenance or, machinery to come in and try to trim the grass, not only that, the machinery is also not the most efficient at it because it can't get underneath the solar panels. You know what can? Sheep. So
I'm already super into this story. Oh my God.
So essentially, like the sheep farm needed more land to raise more sheep, could not afford more land. The EDF Renewables needed someone or something to mow the grass in the fields and fields of solar panels. So I believe the farmer's name was Lindsay Smith, and took her 400 sheep and basically said, "Hey, we'll mow your grass." So it's kind of this partnership where the sheep are rotated through various sections, like they're fenced off. So like, it's like, eat here. Oh, good, you're done. And then they move them on and say, okay, now eat over here, because it gives the grass a chance to regrow. And it's not grass that had to be planted. It's grass that was there anyway. It's grass and weeds and things that are a problem for the solar panel people. And sheep will just eat all of it. And much to the benefit of the 400 sheep, because of course it keeps them healthy. It's a nice organic, there's no pesticides. It's just this natural field of grass. Anyway, it's an article on CBC. We'll have it linked in the show notes. It's hilarious in a positive, really cool kind of partnership kind of way. And I'm seeing more and more solar stories in Canada, specifically CBC, a lot of stuff from up north in BC. And it's just really cool to see the fact that solar is being talked about, reported on, and shown in a way that doesn't kind of, because most people think like, well, solar energy and all this stuff is very technical. Well, where does that leave people that are farmers and vegetable growers and livestock, herders? Well, it leaves them in places where they could potentially partner. Cows are probably a little bit too big.
Exciting.
Yeah, but something like sheep, goats, any kind of small grazing animal, probably llamas. I'm not sure what llamas eat, but like there's a kind of thing where so that's the kind of thing where you could have these potential partnerships, and it also means that to put down these fields and fields of solar panels, you don't have to cut down more trees. Like you don't need new land, you need to share the land, right? Which I thought was just a really interesting vibe. And there's a little soundbite. I've included a YouTube video in the show notes that'll be from EDF. So it's a little bit more of a promo video than the news story, but there's a news story on the CBC website where they interview Lindsay Smith and a couple of other people that are involved. And it's a really neat story. And
that's really nice, man. It's like nice to hear happy stories come out of stuff like this. I'm really delighted by that.
And there just needs to be more of it. And I'm glad, I want to kind of push that out there so that people can find more of it, share it, and just kind of the more that people are aware of it, especially going into, again, I don't want to get into politics, but like going into a federal election in the fall in Canada, the environment and the environmental crisis is going to be a big topic, and how like I'm going to be looking personally very closely at the platforms and solutions that the different parties are offering in terms of
Yeah, me
how I'm going
too.
to be voting. It's going
That
to be a big deciding factor, for
And I
me.
think for me, it's like a lot of like how Native communities are being treated as
Yeah,
well, and
exactly. Yeah.
like that's a huge thing for me.
Yeah, and a
So
lot of it is tied together, of course, right? Because a lot of
yes,
the natural
naturally,
resources are also, indigenous land and that sort of thing.
yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, I just thought it was a fun thing to share.
Thank you for sharing that with me. That's
Yeah,
actually really nice. It's
yeah,
a good,
it's
good
cool, right?
beginning to my day.
I'm gonna try to find more environmental stories. Like I'm not really into politics. I stay informed, but I do try to stay up on environmental news. And I think I might try to work in a little bit more of an article sharing thing here on the Citadel Cafe, just for fun. Like not to really discuss at length, but just kind of like a quick blip to be like, here's something cool. Go check it out and to make your own decisions.
I love that. I'm on board with that.
Well, in the meantime, I had quite a lot of time to spend on Netflix this weekend, and I haven't watched enough of it to report in full. But you and I both discussed the World's Most Extraordinary Homes season one way back in the day. I think we even did
Yeah,
a
way
bonus,
back.
yeah, even did a bonus episode about it. Well, season two is now on Netflix, and I've watched the first one. And there's two
Okay.
parts to season two. There's like they go to different countries. So they travel around and they separate each episode into like 3 or 4 homes in different countries. So I've only watched the first one and it was about Miami, Florida. So it really was not all that interesting to me.
Okay.
Giant mansions that cost $30 million do not really appeal. It can be an interesting architectural adventure, but really the things that I look for to are more the smaller, um,
Like
practical homes.
independently built
Yeah,
homes.
yeah, the stuff that a person could own.
Yeah.
Not that someone that has to play pro football to own. Like that kind
Yeah.
of a thing. Um, but I haven't watched enough of it to really critique it. But I want to come back to it when I'm done because I find that architecture is really interesting and kind of a fun nerdy thing to talk about on the show. But I watched a couple of films over the weekend, but I feel like I've been talking for a while, so I want to start with you. I want to start with how you've been spending your rainy days.
So the last couple rainy days, I was been spending just crocheting and
Oh
watching
wow.
Outlander. Yeah, I've been crocheting for a couple of years. I'm kind of just trying to get more into it. I'm trying to get a jump start on Christmas gifts this year. So I'm making a lot of them. But I've been watching a lot of Outlander. I don't really want to talk about it because I don't know if I like it yet.
Where did you
Um,
start? Is this
oh,
you're just in the beginning, or are you picking it up
I'm
after?
just in the beginning. I kind of just it's on Netflix, and I was like, I'll just
Yeah,
watch it from the
I
beginning. And I'd
watched.
watched some of it before. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
I've watched
I'm
like
just not
two,
sure.
2 or 3 seasons of Outlander. I think I watched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My grandmother loved the books. Like she loved the books. She thought the
Hmm.
books were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I think she ended up watching a lot of the show. I just found that a lot of it just got really repetitive
Yes,
and
that's the problem that I had with it too. I think they're currently in France or Italy in my watch through, and I
like I got all the way through season 1 and then beginning of season 2 they're in France
so maybe I
currently.
maybe I only did watch the first season. I thought maybe it just felt like more.
Maybe
um,
they're long, it's long episodes
yeah, they're an hour.
and they're an hour and there's like 15 in a season, so it's 15 hours
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
of time. And like a lot does happen, but like character motivations are just like super, super linear and then will all of a sudden
mm-hmm.
change in a dime. Like
Yeah.
for no reason. There's just like, okay, suddenly I'm this way. And I don't know if it's like meant to be like, this is how the Scots are. Like Scots are really just impulsive. And I'm like, I don't think
Mm-hmm.
so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I'm trying to
um
remember his name. He plays the bad guy.
I
Crap.
just know the character's name is Randall.
Randall, yeah, like is that he's the evil British
But
military
he
dude,
also
right? But he
plays her
plays for
husband.
husband. I the
Her
one
first
thing,
husband.
yeah, the one thing that I did enjoy about is the juxtaposition of like the person that she's very much in love with and is a very nice guy in the present. The same actor is playing
His
his
ancestor.
ancestor, who's a evil son of a
Oh
gun.
my god.
Yeah,
Just a
so
heinous individual.
yeah, and I have to say, like he's good in
He's a
it.
good actor. He's a
Yeah,
very good actor.
yeah, yeah. And
He was
I'm
also in Game of Thrones. He was
Yes, yeah, he plays the dumb uncle, I think.
yes, he played Tully. Yeah. Yeah. Um he's just very versatile. He's got a good range. So good, like good actor. You love to hate that character. Like every time you see him as like,
Yeah.
in the 1700s, you're just like, ooh.
Tobias Menzies. Yeah, Tobias Menzies is his name.
Is his
And
name.
I feel like he is so good in Outlander. It's ruined me for everything I see him in. My skin crawls whenever I see him in anything else.
Yeah.
It's like being Darth Vader, like
Yeah. It's
sorry,
like being Joffrey Baratheon if you're like doing a character that's just so like good. I feel like Jack Gleason, I don't think even acts anymore. He's like, I quit acting.
yeah,
That was like my claim to
yeah,
fame. I'm good. I'm good with that.
good actor. He was actually in one of the things that I'm going to talk about this week. So kind of a
Oh, is
fun
he? Oh,
fun
cool.
crossover. Yeah, 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 yeah.
But yeah, no, to finish off, like I kind of took a break from Outlander and picked up a book that a friend lent me, a friend from work lent me. It's called it's really interesting. It's called Cinder, and it's basically Cinderella but sci-fi, which is a weird juxtaposition of things. You think fantasy fairy tale, mash it together with sci-fi, how does that going to work? But it actually works really, really well. It's kind of taking fairy tales on a whole new, fresh take.
Hmm.
So Cinder is she's a cyborg. So she was
Nice.
you don't know what happened to her. I think she's still trying to figure it out as well. But um, she's got like a really, really high percentage of being cyborg. Like her skull has kind of all been reconstructed. What she has, one of her hands is metal, one whole leg is metal. I think her spine is also made of metal. Um, so like she's just been cybernetically enhanced with a lot of parts, I think as a life-saving procedure. And like in the typical story of Cinderella, she was picked up by, she had it was her father, her step, and this one he's her stepfather. She was like basically adopted
Right.
by this guy, and then he caught this disease that is an ongoing plot of the story of like this plague, and he passed away and was left with her stepmother and her stepsisters. It's a little different in the sense that Cinder gets along with one of her stepsisters, but not the other.
Mm.
And the stepmother, of course, is still evil and selfish and, not really, just kind of more full of herself than anything else. Um, so it's got all the familiar fairy tale beats, but I'm starting to see hints of other fairy tales come into it as well. Like there's a character you haven't seen her yet, but she's been talked about a lot. There's like two different kingdoms essentially. Like there's a group of people, I guess a couple thousand years ago, who decided to go live on the moon, and they've just kind of all evolved up there, and now are a little bit just unhinged and kind of crazy, um, and developed their own kingdom. So now they're trying to declare war on Earth, and it's a whole variety of stuff. But you can tell that this queen on the moon is meant to be significant of the evil queen from Snow White.
Oh, neat.
So there's a lot of hints to other fairy tales throughout the story, which is really cool. I think what I like about so Cinder is like she's a mechanic, which is kind of fun. It's a fun difference from her being like a housemaid. She's a really, really skilled mechanic, and she likes to tinker with old cars, and
Oh, neat.
she's sought after. She's apparently one of the best mechanics in her city, and it's got a really neat like Oriental influence over everything. The author, I read some of the author notes in the back of the book, and she was saying that some of the first records of the story of Cinderella, as we know it, was actually written in China. So it's set in a city called New Beijing. There's a lot of Asian influence in terms of like naming conventions and how people respond to each other, or
Mm.
like, methods of, words of respect and everything. But then they also talk about Europe a lot. So, there's a lot of European names thrown in throughout as well. So it's a really interesting read. It's an easy read. It's a young adult novel, so it's like meant for like 13, 14-year-olds.
Right.
But for, I've I picked it up last night at like 9 o'clock, and I'm already halfway through.
Right on.
I
Yeah,
read till I
those are
read till like
fun.
1.
Those are fun summer reads.
Yeah.
I read one very similar in terms of not so much cyborg, but it was like very sci-fi, but also a YA novel, I guess.
Mm.
It's called The Softwire. Have you heard of that? I'm
No.
pretty sure I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure I talked about it on the Citadel Cafe at one point because I don't read that many books. Um, I don't remember who it was by, but it was essentially the idea was that this kid was this phenom at communicating with computers, and everyone in this world plugs in, like Matrix style, jack in the back of your head, kind of like
Oh, wow.
you do
Okay.
that, and then you are better or worse at controlling different kinds of systems. So you might be like Cinderella, you might be a mechanic, you might be better at security, maybe maybe you're a hacker, like maybe you have,
Right.
I don't remember all the details because this was a couple of years ago. um, but the softwire is what it implies is that he can telepathically communicate with computers without having to plug in, and do the same job, but without the wires. And so he's special, and you don't know why. So it kind of has like that Harry Potter kind of, you're the chosen one
Mm.
kind of vibe to it, but
Right.
without being a copy of that storyline. And what I liked so much about it is that it painted a very unique kind of sci-fi world, in that it didn't feel like Star Wars or Star Trek or any fantasy like Harry Potter or anything like that. It felt wholly unique unto itself. So there was a lot of work that goes into the world building, and I find that's really essential for those kind of films. So I like the in Cinder, the description of like, how China heavily influenced like the culture and the naming conventions. Like that's cool. I like
Mm.
those through lines. Like it's still fantasy, like it's still out there, it's still sci-fi, but
Yeah.
but it has those ties of like, let's
Real
just take
world
this,
elements.
yeah, this real world
Yeah.
concept, and let's just like fast forward it 200 years with a big what if, and
Yeah.
figure out what happens. Like Firefly did that, I think. The two major, you
It did,
know
and she also did say that was a huge inspiration for some of this was
oh
Joss
cool.
Whedon's Firefly. She like I feel like if I ever met the author, we would be very, very good friends. I feel like a lot of the stuff that she was into as a teenager is stuff that I was very heavily into as a teenager.
Oh nice.
Um, and it's like this kind of hits all the beats for me so far. Again, I'm still only halfway through, so um it's not a difficult read. It's not some great creative inspirational prose of anything, but it's a nice, easy storytelling thing. It's got some humor in it. She's very sarcastic, which is nice. Like it's really rare that you see a sarcastic protagonist. Like
Right.
oftentimes I find in
The
young adult novels,
sidekick.
like
Yeah.
the female protagonists are like, kind of pretty and,
The do good or do right. The
yeah, and
heroine.
she's
Yeah.
yeah, and she was more so one of the major conflicts of the whole story is that there's this plague going around and no one really knows where it's coming from or how it spreads. It just sort of keeps popping up, and um it kind of manifests itself with like little red dots with blue rings around it. So like the whole ring around the rosy nursery rhyme has kind of come back into popularity because this resurgence of this plague that was very similar. It's really interesting. Like it's like tying in a lot of different things.
Clever.
So they have no idea how it spreads. They haven't quite figured it out yet. I've been trying to see if there's any sort of hints to anything.
Right.
I remember there being like a hint of like a rat in one scene, and then someone in the scene got the plague after talking about the rat. And I tried to go through and see if that was a common thread throughout. There's been two like plague outbreaks so far.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's um, but yeah, it basically comes down to the fact that for some reason she's immune to the plague, but she doesn't want to she's kind of like forced under duress to um provide like blood samples to create an antidote for it. Like she doesn't really want to.
Mm.
And the only reason she does is because it's one of her stepsisters gets the plague, and she's like, okay, well, I'm doing it for her, I guess. But she's still just like, I'm getting like she's still also trying to plan like an escape of some kind. Like I think she's gonna. I don't know. I haven't quite like I don't know what the actual outcome is going to be. Yet again, I'm still only halfway through, but so far it's a really interesting, and she doesn't seem like a do-gooder right
Mm.
now. She's still very, very not self-absorbed, but like she has a lot of self-interest, um,
Right.
which is
Self-preservation
unique.
sort of
So a lot
idea.
of self-preservation. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's very, very unique. And I guess they've been in the story. They've been using like cyborgs are very common, and they've been using cyborgs as the only testing, like the only like test subjects to create a cure for the plague. But it's failed every single time, so naturally they all die. So there's just this, you know, group of cyborgs who are just kind of giving their lives to this cause to try and fix this plague, and they're all just kind of dying needlessly from it. So I'm just like, and there's a lot of key players in it that I don't know if everyone's trustworthy yet, which is really interesting too. So I'm gonna I might actually finish it by today if I'm being honest.
Oh,
Today or
nice.
tomorrow morning.
That's always the sign of
Um
a good book. Like when you just
yeah.
when you want to relax and you're just like, nah, I'm gonna just go read this, and I'm probably gonna read this for the rest of the night, or just to the point
Yeah.
where I sometimes will even stop myself. Like I can potentially read a book that I'm really enjoying quite quickly, but I will, like with that Practical Demon Keeping that I read a couple of weeks ago. I
Mhm.
would stop myself. I'm just like, okay, all right, I got to put this down, or I'm going to finish it all tonight. And I'd like to
See,
have something to read for the weekend, you know?
right. See, I have so many books I haven't read. There's another one I think I might pick up after this called well, I mean Cinder is a series, so
Mm.
I'll have to see if I can get the other books. But there's another one called what's it called? The first one is called The Throne of Glass. I don't I haven't I've read like the first couple pages of it, but I have to actually have to sit down and read it. Um and I forgot how like enjoy I haven't read in a long time, so I forgot how enjoyable reading was. Like how just nice and chill it was. Um and it's helpful. Everyone's been saying I've been like reading a lot of blogs and things and reading advice or getting like watching videos on YouTube about like writers and how to get
Mm-hmm.
better at writing, and everyone wants to just like read stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but if I read stuff I won't have time to actually write. But it's actually been very helpful. Like it's been helping me. I'm getting more inspired to like keep writing some more. So it's good. It's a good thing. Is if like as I think as a way to kind of take a break from the chaos that's in my brain from my own
Oh man,
stories.
um,
It's very helpful.
100%. Like I mean, I cannot tell you how different my sessions of being creative and making stuff are now that I have a better work-life balance.
Mhm.
It does happen from time to time where I have to work on a weekend. I try not to, but it's been, I want to say, since around 2017. Since I got back from my Utah vacation, I just don't work weekends, or try desperately not to. I do have some things that kind of seep in. Like I do a podcast on Monday mornings, so I kind of have to prep for that a little bit on Sunday, but not always.
Right.
And some of the video stuff that I do, like streaming, is on weekends. But it's also very fun and very casual, so it's not really work.
Work.
Podcasting I do consider work because it's part of my living, and I treat it professionally. But for the most part, I try not to work on weekends. Specifically, Saturdays are like day off. Don't do anything. Um, but the the problem that I was experiencing before that was just hitting creative walls, not finding any interest at all in drawing or drawing for myself, even just doing client stuff, where it's just like, this is a job, I'm getting paid for this, and it's a good client. I'm
Yeah.
just not excited to sit down and do it. And the problem was that I wasn't taking enough time off. There was no inspiration in what I was doing. Even the kind of things where like you're going to be drawing like a background for someone's novel. And while, yes, it's not your own personal work, you have to kind of be inspired for like, okay, well, what does this alien landscape look like? Where am I going to draw inspiration from that? The problem is that if you're working all the time, or if you're creating all the time, you're not sucking anything in. You're not absorbing the world. You're not absorbing any television shows or art or novels or anything else. You're just making.
Yeah.
Well, you can't just constantly output without having some sort of input. And it's important to just kind of take those breaks. It's one of the reasons why I really like hiking, is because it allows me to just take a break, and either just sometimes subconsciously, I'm not necessarily thinking about work, but it's just enough of a brain dump or an inspiration jump, excuse me, to get the junk out of your head and get the good stuff in, so that when it does come
Yeah.
time to sit down and write, sit down and draw, sit down and paint, whatever that happens to be, write music, depending on what kind of creative person you are, it just flows a little bit more naturally. Also, we spend a lot of time in front of screens and computers, whether it's mobile phones or whether it's, computer screens, editing and writing and all that kind of stuff, because it's efficient. Like I can
Yeah.
draw on paper sitting on the bench in the sunshine, but if I have to fix something, I miss my undo button. And it's far more
Yeah.
efficient for me to just kind of sit down on a not nice day in front of the screen and jam out some work. And so for me, having that break, like for you, reading a paper novel, it's very different than reading blogs. Like it's enough of an escape, probably, I'm guessing, that it doesn't feel like it's connected to your work or your busy life. Like it's a nice
Yeah,
break. And it's
but it's
important to
I'm still
recharge.
yeah, I'm still kind of treating it not like work. See, like for me, writing is sort of like an escape time, but I think I've been putting it on the back burner
Right.
so often just for other things, and I've been really wanting to get back into it. Like I have a whole wall in my bedroom just plastered in sticky notes, just with like a base outline for something because I realized I'm a very tactile like I need to have like tactile things. I need to have things
Mm,
that I can actually hold and like move around physically. So I found this cool method of outlining for stories. It's just called like the board method, the storyboard method, where you just write down your key moments and you put them in order, and then you like or figure out how to put them in order, and then that way you can see if you're missing any holes, like if you have any plot holes or you have any things that haven't been there to fill in the blank. Like maybe okay, well they're going to get here, but you don't know how they're going to get there. So at least okay, well I need them to get here at this point. And then afterwards they have to get to this place, but then you can see where the blanks are and you can be like, okay, let's try and fill in these blanks so I can have more of a clear, cohesive story. So I've been doing that one lately, which has actually been very helpful.
that's really cool.
Yeah,
It,
it's work. Like it's not
yeah.
fast and easy, but it's a clear way of seeing what you need to add if you are missing
Mm.
something. And again, being a very visual person,
Good way to stay
um,
organized too.
it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, because it sounds, I mean, being, having some animation and film background, it sounds like it could almost be color coded. Uh,
I have it color coded.
yeah, like so, like
I do.
angry, scary moments are like red or black or creepy colors, and then like, oh, this is a fun moment, and maybe it's blue or green or like
Yeah.
or even
So
location based.
I bought a pack of sticky notes that have one, two, three, four, five different colors in them,
Nice.
and I have a legend on my wall of this one is. I just picked up my sticky notes. Have you heard that little clunk? I can't remember. I can't really see it from over here right now, but
Right.
different colors have different like kinds of scenes. So like romance scenes, important information. Like I'm trying to think of it like also video games. Like when you have a video game and some text is outlined in blue.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like, and
yeah,
this
yeah.
is the stone of power in blue text, like
You're gonna
something
need to
like
remember
that.
this later. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, this is key info here. I guess so. I've kind of done that. Um, which naturally won't be the same way in the book. But one of the YouTubers I've been following, her name's Jenna Moresi, and she's hilarious. She's actually like I started looking online for more like writing inspiration, and she gives a lot of really great writing inspiration, but she also does it in a really, really funny way. Um, no holds barred. She curses like a sailor, and it's kind of hilarious. I don't know. Like she just does not give a crap about what anyone thinks about her. It's really, really delightful to see. And she's written 3 books so far and has them published. Um and so like she's like, these are tried and true methods that have worked for me. They might work for you too, but if not, that's okay. Like I'm just kind of showing you what works for me so far. Um but she like in her outline, like after she does the whole sticky note thing, she color codes everything, and then she rewrites her entire outline in a Word document on her computer, Word or Pages, whatever, like any sort of document, like text document, um, and we'll color code each moment in the text document as well. Um, so it's just easy. By the time she's done, she can just basically copy paste her entire, like just basically edit right off of her outline and just fill in the blanks of all the prose
Hmm.
that needs to be added in there. So she's like, you're basically done all the work for yourself. The whole idea behind an outline, you have to go back and rewrite as much. Like the
Right.
whole outline, like the story is there. All you may have to fix up is the way some of the wording happens,
Yeah,
essentially.
you've got the backbone of everything. You just have to kind of
Yeah.
fill in the branches and the leaves. That
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Exactly.
It's kind of a
And she like,
weird double analogy for me between a human skeleton and a tree. But I think
it's true. Yeah, it's true. A skeletal tree.
yeah.
Um, but no, she's good. She has. tropes that are overused. She's like, maybe avoid these tropes because these are everywhere and no, everyone's tired of them. So let's try something different. Like really, really bad tropes for romance, really good tropes for romance that always seem to work really well. She's interesting and she's very good for like constructing. Like, hers is for books mostly, but you could probably do the same thing for, animation shows or
Oh
web
yeah, well I
series or
mean
something
story
that
is
you're
story.
working
It
on.
doesn't matter
Yeah.
whether it's whether it's a novel or a comic or whatever. I mean a good story and compelling characters and character decisions and motivations that aren't tropey are far more compelling to any kind of storytelling medium. Doesn't really matter what
Yeah.
what or how you're saying it. Well, I can tell you something that was full of tropes, devoid of any real substance, except for a lot of blood and gore. Which was Underworld Blood War, which is something that I
Yeah.
watched on Netflix. I mean, I was tired. It was one of those days where like you've been inside all day and you're actually more tired than had you done something,
Yeah.
because you've just been
I
lazy all
hate those
day.
days.
Yeah, well, and then I had spent a lot of time. I played some Minecraft. I was editing some videos, and so there was a lot of computer time. And I had, I made some dinner, and I wanted to watch something on Netflix, and I was looking for something to just kind of like chill out. It's a Saturday night. I wanted to do something more than just 20 minutes. Like I wanted a film. I wanted to escape and watch something. So I ended up watching Underworld Blood War. I had watched the previous ones, and I didn't hate them. Like well, whatever. I was in the mood for something sci-fi and escapist. Like I did not want it to be necessarily something that was a history film or like something a little bit more down to earth. Well, this was out there, I can tell you that. Stars Kate Beckinsale, Theo James, but also weirdly Charles Dance, who I will watch in just about anything.
Right.
So there's some big actors, and really a lot of them, I don't remember all their names, but you was like, oh, he was in Game of Thrones. Oh, he was in Game of Thrones too. And there was a lot of that because, of course, it's European filmed, and a lot of British actors
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Filmed in Czechoslovakia, I think. No, that's not a country anymore. Where was it? Czech Republic, maybe. Anyway, the story, loose as I want to call it, was focused on the fact that Selena, which is Kate Beckinsale's role as a vampire death dealer, so she's one of the top vampire defenders. She's essentially like a vampire warrior, and there's this long-standing war between lycans, werewolves, and vampires. And this is the thing that I like about the Underworld series is I like the unique take that vampires and werewolves are not like the same. They're very different. They're essentially warring factions, and there's this secret war that's been going on for centuries that humans don't know about, or get sucked into depending on like how the movie goes. And they have a different take. Like vampires have different sort of susceptibilities, and in some cases, like some vampires, if you expose them to sun, they get burned and they run away screaming. And in this, they die instantly. It's like you get a speck of sunlight on you and you're done.
Really?
Oh yeah, you turn into just you're ghosted. Like you're just ashes in the wind, just puff. In a very dramatic, not gory, but like it's like burning alive sort of thing. Like they scream for a bit, but after that they're done, and it doesn't matter. Like you get hit in the shoulder with a little beam of sunlight and you're toast. But at the same time, they also twist the werewolves around in that they don't come out in full moons. They can change whenever they want. They are susceptible to silver still. So like a lot of the vampires, their swords and their weapons are all like silver coated, or imbued with pure silver. And so like the more silver that you have on you as a vampire, the better, because it means you're anti-lycan. Like you can defend yourself against the lycans.
Right.
I
remember watching the first one forever ago.
And the first one was good, right? And this is the fifth in this series of films. And like everything else, they probably should have stopped at a trilogy. Because the way that the whole trilogy was, Selena falls in love with Michael. Michael is a pure blood from a ancient vampire bloodline, but he's not. I can't remember exactly. Somehow he either gets
like both vampire and lycan.
So he's a hybrid. So this is the idea: is that he's supposed to be the answer to. He's supposed to be the answer to the war. It's like he's this different being altogether. He's half vampire, half werewolf, and they handled that poorly. he wasn't a very good actor, and the visuals that they did for being halfway in between, they just kind of turned him blue. Like it really wasn't very good. They could have done a lot more with it. Um, and he also had a lot more control over his powers and when he changed, and he didn't have the bloodlust like that vampires have. Like, so there's all these different things. Like, he had like all the benefits of both species, but none of the weaknesses, sort of idea. But then there's this tragic, Romeo Juliet love story where each side wants him for different reasons, mostly to dissect him, sort of idea. And then of course Selena tries to protect him, and then he ends up, they end up being captured and stuff like that. So it's the kind of thing where like the movies never end the way that they should, because if they end the way that they should, then they won't be able to make another another one. Right? So they always have to tie them off in some weird kind of open-end comic booky type way, which is fine. Like, I don't go into this expecting, Oscar winning, writing. I do like the way that they do the action. They have a lot of very well choreographed fight scenes between vampires and werewolves and stuff like that. And then they speed it up. So, because vampires are supposed to be super fast, right? Mm-hmm. And so they film it, but instead of doing the kind of tropey, slow motion thing, where you get the bullet time, stuff happens. You get to see this person is just so good that they can dodge this sword that's going super slow, kind of like how they did the Flash in Justice League. Instead, they film it and then speed it up, which I find really engaging. Like, all of a sudden you're watching not kung fu, but it's essentially like a sword and sorcery type fight style. But then when two vampires start going at it, it's like watching a film in fast forward. It's really kind of cool. Now, they don't do it all the time. It's like the vampires have to like save up their energy and then like do a couple of quick moves, and then they have to go back to regular fighting, because otherwise it wouldn't be very good to watch.
Right.
But the whole idea is that the Lycans have organized, and they've never been organized before. So they're coming and trying to attack the last, what do they call them? Warrens? No, they call them, covens of vampires. And these covens are like these strongholds, these ancient, like technologically advanced like houses that have like, blackout shutters and security systems and all this kind of stuff. And the Lycans are attacking the last Eastern Coven, which is like a big castle type place. So that's the big battle. And the idea is that Theo James plays another pureblood who didn't know that he was a pureblood, so that the vampires now have a leader to get behind. But they never really, like, they put all these kind of like important historical, I guess, weights on these characters, but then they never do anything with it.
Right.
So you're just like, well, okay, so he's the chosen one, or he's the descendant of some important vampire, but like it never seems to mean anything, because it's basically just empty dialogue to lead to the next fight scene, which is unfortunate. The fight scenes are cool, but like I said, it wasn't my favorite film. The thing that bothered me the most, I think, was the way that they explain and how they portray the Lycans in the film physically is very different than how they articulate them as villains. They are supposed to be formidable. The vampires are concerned about them. Like, these are hoarding big beasts that can kill us. And yet, whenever there's a fight scene, there's just all these opportunities for vampires to just stomp the ground with these guys, and they don't do it. It's like these Lycans take 30 seconds to change in the middle of a fight from a human into a werewolf. It's like you could have killed him then, or then. But it's one of those things where, like, they slow it down too much for filming. It's like, it takes the pace out of everything. It's like that scene in Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, when the guy comes at him with the sword. He does all those like twirly things. He's like, fancy, I'm going to gut you like a fish. And Indiana Jones just shoots him, right? And this is what the vampires should be doing whenever the Lycans come in and they roar and they change and they do all this kind of stuff. They should be blowing the hell out of these things when they come in the door, and they don't do it.
That drives me nuts. It drives me crazy. Yeah. Like all the crazy acrobatics of stuff. Yeah. Just to say, hey, look, we have a bunch of
CG budgets.
CG budget. We have a huge CG budget. It's like a barrage of CG just in your face.
And the CG isn't all that good in this either. I don't really like the werewolves. Don't look they don't look athletic. Like their heads and their shoulders kind of mesh into one giant mass, and it looks stupid. It looks like they can't turn their head. Like it's
Yeah.
really really strange. I think one of my favorite werewolves in any movie was from Van Helsing, back when Hugh Jackman turned into a vampire, and because they turned it, he was a wolf man, but he looked athletic. Like they had this, he looked
Hmm.
very agile. The whole thing was CG, and it was very very cool. But this did not live up to snuff. And I feel like I've actually spent far longer talking about it than I had actually planned. But anyway, it's not the greatest film, but if you like that kind of stuff, it was a successful movie. It only cost 25 million to make, and yet it made 81 million worldwide. So it's just like, okay, it was a success. People are like, why do they keep on making these? Because they triple their money.
They get it back,
you
man.
know,
Holy crap.
and I mean, I don't know how they
And
convinced Charles Dance to be in it. That's the other thing. I really don't.
yeah, that's the thing with movies like this. Like, I think it's commonly known that, hey, movies that like multiple movies are kind of garbage. Like, eventually, later, like the
Yeah,
further in the series that you go, the later movies are always going to be crap. And yet, they're still able to get these really heavy hitting names in these movies. I
yeah,
don't understand it.
yeah.
Like, are they really desperate for work?
I would say
Did
that a
they
lot
just
of it, yeah, I would say a lot of it, it's an older school of actor. It's the same kind of like generation of actors that you have with like Morgan Freeman. He is in everything. I've seen him in terrible movies. I've seen him in fantastic movies. He's good in all of them, but the movies themselves are sometimes not great. But
right?
he keeps working and he's everywhere. And that's probably precisely his plan, right? As long as I'm
Yeah.
working, then and that's the thing. Like when you drop a name like Morgan Freeman, everybody knows who he is.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
it's not just because he was in important films like Driving Miss Daisy and a bunch of other stuff like that, but it's because he's in so much. And Charles Dance, I mean, it could be just the fact that like I've got the summer off and I like vampires, and this sounds like a fun part. He probably also didn't have to film for very long because he wasn't in it for a great length of time. So
Right.
probably just a couple of days out of his summer vacation to be like, yeah, sure. But the thing is, when you've got these guys, and he played Sam Tully's father in Game of Thrones. I don't remember the actor's
Yeah.
name. You've got Charles Dance, who was, of course, Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones. And you've got this caliber of actor playing vampires. They're awesome. And I would very much like to
Yeah.
see a well written film with them from start to finish as like the vampire elders with a bunch of other really cool people in it. I don't
Yeah.
want it to be like a um, Ryan Reynolds action film, kind of thing. But I would be okay with like a vampire drama or something that had these kind of actors in it, because it's going to have a little bit of a twist. Like it's not going to be a historical drama, it's not going to be a period piece, but if it has like a vampire twist to it, they were convincing because they're evil, but they're also just cultured because they've been alive for 600 years, right? So they have this kind of presence that I think was very very cool, but it's wasted on a movie like Underworld Blood War, which
Yeah.
is unfortunate. On the complete flip, I also watched Brooklyn, and I had
Yeah.
wanted to see this in theaters when it first came out. I saw the trailer and I just thought that looks like an excellent film. It just looks like a good story. Have you seen it?
No, I have not. I've
I
heard about it though.
You need to. You
Yeah.
absolutely need to. Yeah, it's a joint production between Telefilm Canada, British Film Board, and I can't remember the name of the company in Ireland, but it's like an Irish film. It's not an. I don't want to call it an indie film because it's really well done, and it doesn't have that kind of grassroots feel to it. It's a fantastic, just coming of age, character driven story. It's not heavy on the plot, but it doesn't need to be because it's just compelling enough from a I want to know what she does next kind of idea, that it's like a page turner in that way. It's a delightful film starring Saoirse Ronan, Emery Cohen, and Domhnall Gleeson. I think I'm pronouncing his name right, and also Julie Walters is in it too. And
That's
it's
a good cast.
oh, it's a good cast. I mean,
That's a really
Ronan
good cast.
is
I love
phenomenal.
Saoirse Ronan in
She
anything. Like
is
I love her in
wicked.
anything. She's so
Wicked.
good. I aspire to be her level
Oh
of
my gosh. Presence, like screen presence,
yeah.
unreal.
But
And
she's also really, really awkward too. Have you ever seen interviews with her on Ellen, on the Ellen
oh yeah,
show?
no, she's good. Yeah.
Like I think one of my favorite ones was just like, you know, what was it? Like she was talking about how she's not really gonna date, and then and then she was like, no, like I'm really really awkward about asking people. She's like, can I practice on you? And she's like, and Ellen was like, no, I'm married. And she was like, yeah, it's practice, it's practice. And then like Ellen's like, okay, so Ellen kind of gets in character. She's like, hey, you wanna go out sometime? She's like, Ellen, you're married. It's like she just immediately flips it back around on her,
Yeah.
and like without even thinking about it, it's she's so good. I love her.
Yeah, there was a late night interview that I saw with her. I was basically I was actually looking up how to pronounce her first name for the podcast, and I saw a late night.
Saoirse.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I didn't know that because it's spelled Saoirse.
There's like videos and it's like, how do you pronounce your name, Saoirse? See, I
Yeah,
know it's an Irish name, and we have a
yeah.
lot of
Well,
so.
they call her Ailish in the film, and it's pronounced Ellis, right? But that's just it's Gaelic, right? Like it has some of these
Mm,
pronunciations, which is kind of
yeah,
it sounds normal when you say it, but or it's spelled very differently.
yeah.
But anyway, and she went on. She was there supposed to be. I think she was supposed to be promoting Ladybird, but then she ended up talking about like her dolls and how she used to have like her own soap opera at night with her dolls, and one of the dolls had one arm that she lost in a car accident, and like, and so she wasn't talking about the film at all. Like she was just the whole 6 minutes that she's on stage, she's talking about her dolls, and that's how she got good at American accents, is because she had a little Woody Toy Story Woody doll that, and he was American, and so she was doing all the different voices when she was younger. Anyway, it was very very funny.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was very very endearing. But um, the film is based on novel of the same name by Colm Tobins, I believe is how
Okay.
you pronounce his name. And the one thing that I'll say that I didn't necessarily love about the film was the ending. It just felt like a little bit too much of an echo in terms of how it started. It was too much of a nice little bow. But when I watched it, I thought, this is probably based on a book, and this is probably how the book ended, because this is kind of how book
Mm,
ends.
mm-hmm.
And it was like, wow, they probably wanted to stay true to the book, and they probably didn't really feel like they had to, but it was the right thing to do. And so
Right.
that's how they wrapped up the film. And that was a little bit of a kind of a weird shrug from me, but it was a very small kind of in an otherwise delightful film. The film itself was written by Nick Hornby, who of course wrote High Fidelity and many other books. So it was adapted. He was nominated for a Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. It was also received a nomination for Best Actress and Best Picture, and did win the Best Picture for the BAFTA um, in 2015 or 16, depending on when those awards were. I can't recommend it enough. I don't want to get into too much of it because I feel like it kind of spoils. It has so little in terms of plot that if you know what happens, it really removes like any kind of like pressure to go forward with it. But it's 100%
Mm-hmm.
character driven. Like it's a story about an Irish immigrant coming to the U.S. She lives in Brooklyn, hence the name, and her struggles there. And it deals with life, love, loss, all those kind of things. It kind of has that Forrest Gump feel to it in terms of like you're just following this person and how their life goes, and you just want to know how they end up, right? Um, it felt a little bit strange in one of the climax scenes when they were talking about a major life decision,
Mm-hmm.
and I understand from just an outside point, I guess, the where the story was going, but they portrayed it in such a weird way where something that was very small was given a huge amount of weight, and something
Yeah.
that was huge didn't seem to get very much weight at all. And And
Huh.
yeah, and when you realize, okay, if she's making a big life decision based on these two things, you would think that the emphasis would be on the big thing, not this little kind of odd exchange. So I did find that very strange, but I think part of it is just, and it's, well, part of it is because it's removed from time. Like it's set in the 40s or 50s, I think,
Okay.
and 1950s, and so there's that time kind of removal, but then also there's this culture of not talking about feelings in
Mm.
Europe, like
Ah,
England,
yes.
Ireland, like all this kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
And so that becomes both a crutch to some of the more important scenes, but also becomes a huge sail that helps some of the more subtle acting and other scenes throughout the film. I cannot tell you how much I love the sparsity of dialogue in this film. Like the things that you would normally get where boy meets girl, insert awkward ramble because it's fun, it's funny, it's dialogue. We have to fill the screen with time and noise, right? In
Right.
modern movie. In this, it's like someone gets asked out on a date and they say yes, and that's it. But you're still in that scene for another 20 seconds of them looking either delighted or awkward or whatever it happens to be. And it's wonderful. It's there's so much that happens with all of the actors, with their eyes, with the other things that they do, whether it's they wipe their mouth with a napkin or whatever. But it's all the unsaid stuff that's really, really powerful and really, really well done. And again, I have to tip my hat to Saoirse Ronan, because like it's just the moments of her kind of like staring off in the distance, which it sounds tropey, but she really does nail it in a way that you just like, you know exactly what she's feeling. And because of the things that have happened in previous, times in her life, you know what she's thinking about when certain things happen. And
Right.
yeah, it's really, really good. It's the kind of thing that you can't watch while you do something else. Like you have to be watching the screen, because if you're just listening to it, you're going to miss a ton of really subtle stuff. Anyway, I can't
Mm-hmm.
recommend it enough. It's again, it's very much outside of the kind of films that I would normally watch, but I've just been at this, like Netflix has got next to nothing. I mean, Stranger Things season 3 comes out tomorrow, thank God. But there, as far as like films and things like that, there doesn't seem to be a lot going on. There's a lot of television shows, but there's not a lot of films
Yeah.
on Netflix. So as you
Yeah.
can see with Underworld Blood War, there was a disparaging
Of
difference
stuff.
between
Yeah.
stuff that I had to choose from.
There's a new show on Netflix, or new movie anyway. It's called Always Be My Maybe.
Yes, I
Um,
have seen
that
trailers for that.
that I've heard is good. People were comparing it to Rich Asians, which is on Crave, which I watched, and it's a you know
Hmm.
decent Hollywood romantic comedy slash tensiony romp. I think it was the first film that was ever shot with only Asian cast and crew, though. Like, there's no white people
Right.
anywhere in that whole thing, which I was kind of excited about because we tend to dominate the market a little bit,
Hmm.
and in a way that's maybe not great. That kind of takes away roles from other people. But but yeah, always I've heard that a lot of people preferred Always Be My Maybe over Crazy Rich Asians, and I've heard some good things about it. That's the only thing. I just haven't had the desire to sit down and watch a movie lately, which is why I haven't watched it yet. But
Well, always be my
I know what
maybe.
you mean.
Isn't that a show? It's a TV show, isn't it not?
I thought it was a movie.
Oh,
I
I
thought it was just like a
could be
one-off film.
could be mistaken.
I
I thought it was a
I'm checking
series.
right now because I I thought it was a movie, a film. But where is it? There's a lot of things I've tried to give a watch to, but um I don't know. I just haven't been super interested in everything that's on Netflix lately.
Oh, you're right. It's a film. It's a film. I
This
think it's
film?
just that the trailer really makes it look like a TV series.
Yeah, it's got a real like sitcom-y sort of vibe. It kind of reminds me of with Zoe Deschanel, like the same kind of vibe from that show, or
Yes.
like The
Yep.
Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, which kind of has that weird sort of quirky
Yeah. Things that aren't
atmosphere
afraid.
to
They're
it.
not afraid to kind of. They don't necessarily break the fourth wall, but they're unabashedly a film. They're not trying to suspend any kind of disbelief. It's
Mm-hmm.
like watching it's like watching a play on film. It's not meant to be like you're going to run into these people in real life. They just seem like such caricatures. That's why I thought it was a TV
Yeah.
show. It reminded me of like situation comedy TV as opposed to rom-com movie. But that could also just be Netflix. Like you're just so used to most Netflix original stuff being television series, just because they get more watch time out of it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I just again, it was not something that's really on my radar, but
Mm.
I have seen the trailers for it for a while there. I'm not sure why. Probably because of the stuff that I post on Instagram with the Citadel Cafe when I share the podcast. I was just getting a lot of Netflix ads on Instagram, and it was from
Interesting.
yeah. Right now, it's all about The Witcher with Henry Cavill, which I'm looking forward to.
I
That's probably going
haven't
to be
seen
cool.
anything about that at all.
I
Like
follow
nothing.
him, so I don't see much
Okay.
ads as I see like promotional things from him about it. But because they're done filming and they're a lot of the graphics, and Netflix has released like not a trailer, but like the promotional image, and it doesn't even have a time. It's like coming 2019. It's like okay, sure.
Okay.
I'll get excited when I have a date.
Yeah.
I like Henry Cavill in basically everything that he's done. Like I watched Mission Impossible. I can't Fallout. I think it was called. And I
Yeah.
mean, like it was a predictable movie, and it's Tom Cruise and it's Mission Impossible. But I really enjoyed Cavill in it. He was a good character in it. So yeah,
Right on.
yeah.
I mean, I just like Henry Cavill anyway. So
Yes, no, I am not afraid to admit that he is charming. He's a charismatic son of a gun, both on
yes.
social media and in film. It's like The Rock. He's like I just I'm more of a fan of him than I am really his films. Now Cavill, I do like the films that he's in, but with The Rock, his films are okay. But I really like the dude. Like he's just such a
Yeah, he's just a
he's a
nice.
presence. Like he does the
He's a
nicest stuff.
yeah. It's really interesting. I was going back. I don't know why I did this, but a friend of mine is really into WWE. Is
Yeah.
that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot that The Rock used to be
Oh yeah.
Dwayne Johnson was The Rock from WWE. I totally forgot about it.
Yeah.
Um and man, like just going through and like looking at some of his old footage to see how just in character he was the whole time. I was like, wow, that's crazy. He's so different from what he used to be,
Oh yeah.
or like
No,
what he used to seem like he
the
was.
persona,
Right?
the ring persona was a different kind of person.
Yeah,
He still
he
has a
was
lot of the
like
same bravado, which I think is fun, but he's a lot more wholesome. Well,
he's
he's got
kinder.
three daughters, I think.
Yeah,
Three
three
daughters.
daughters.
One of them from a previous marriage. She's an adult now. She's 20 or something like that. But he's got two daughters under 5, I think, with his current wife. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and I mean, and I follow him on Instagram, and I've seen some adorable stuff where he's just like he's trying to do some sort of, I'm supposed to release information on Instagram right now, but I'm at home and I'm with my kid. So I'm just going to do it with my kid. And she's just interrupting him. And he's just like, yeah, no, daddy's talking. Daddy's talking. And she's like, daughter doesn't care. Like, just,
Daughter doesn't care. She's like,
oh,
Daddy, I need your attention right now.
so
Like,
good. It's so cute. And
it's so
not in an
cute.
annoying way, but she's just trying to get like, I can't remember what it was, like cereal or Cheerios or something, snacks,
Yeah. It's like, and when like a kid needs snacks, it's like,
yeah.
I need it right now.
She's just
Like
like,
right
it's
this
like, I don't
second.
understand what you're doing with the phone, Dad, but it is unimportant. Like
Yep.
it was very, very cute. And he does all kinds of
Yeah.
really cool stuff like that. The one that I just this morning, he was visiting Disney Studios for some business deal. So he's announcing that he's there for a Disney business deal, which you're thinking, okay, that's cool. Like that's information that's interesting to know. But the other thing that he's doing is like some lady was having her retirement party. She works in payroll. And so they waved at him and they were like, hey, we're having a retirement party. He's like, well, then come over here and give me a hug. And of course, everybody flips out. And like, so he's enjoying his stardom.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a cool thing that at that lady's retirement party that she's going to be able to tell all of her friends about, right? Like that,
Yeah.
it's the kind of
I met
fun.
The Rock at my retirement party.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
that's I don't know, that's not like I've always heard that he's been a really like generous person.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked very hard to get to where he was too.
Oh,
Like he
absolutely.
was dirt poor when he first started.
And that's the kind of stuff I
you
really
know,
enjoy about his. I mean, I don't really. I confess that sometimes I don't listen to the whole videos when he's doing like these motivational speeches. You see a lot of it from like Will Smith and
yeah.
Kevin Hart does it too. It's like I don't really need, as much as I can appreciate some people have worked very hard to get where they are and they've come from nothing. I can't really sit and take life advice from people sitting on millions of dollars. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'd rather take it from somebody that's in the process of like, hey, I couldn't pay rent last month, but now I can. Those are the people I'm probably going to take advice from.
Yeah.
But those are the people that are not out there on Instagram doing this kind of thing, because why would they? They're too busy working,
Right.
And so I enjoy the entertainment aspect of a lot of what they do. But it's one of those things where it's just such an interesting to see someone diverse. We're getting on a crazy tangent, but like
We are.
it's like Dwayne Johnson has his own tequila brand coming out. He's got partnerships with he's got his partnerships with Under Armour. You should see the man's pancakes on his cheat days. I much admire.
Oh my God, I've seen them.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
I've seen his sushi train.
Oh yeah.
Like,
well, and I mean, as someone that used to work out in gyms like 3 to 4 hours a day, seeing, you think he was in good shape when he was in wrestling. You should, like, the shape that he is in now, it is ridiculous.
I almost worry that he's like almost working out too much. Like
he's a monster. He's
a monster of a man.
The thing is, though, when you're that big, you have to do it to maintain it. Otherwise, it goes away. Like you'll end up, well, because your body will just adapt to what you're doing. And if you're making a lot of movies, you'll just adapt to being a lot of standing around and walking around and acting. You have to kind of keep this up. But just in a lot of the, what I really appreciate too about his feed is that there's a lot of just like blood, sweat, kind of like, I'm just going to go work out and somebody is just going to film me working out. Like he did a shoot for like GQ or Time or something where they had a lot of filming happening in the gym. And so he's just doing his workout. He's like, you guys can be here, but I'm going to go do some real work. And it's not, he's not like fluffy strong. The guy's a monster. Like I remember he's doing like these chest exercises. It's a lateral chest machine, so it's like a press, and he's got four, I could be wrong, could be 5, but he's got 4 at least 45-pound plates on each side.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what, 180 pounds in each hand. And he's doing reps with it. He's not just once, he's like doing like 10. It's like, that's insane.
That's wild. That's almost a little bit too muscly for me. Like, like I don't know. That's not very nice to cuddle.
No, well, he's also a big dude. Like he's like 6'4", 6'5", something like that. Like he's 270
I think he's taller
pounds.
than that. I think he's like 6'6", 6'7" or something. Like he's got to be.
I can't remember. He's a big man. Anyway, but it's cool just to kind of see all aspects of that. Like he doesn't seem to hide any of the, I mean, he keeps his private life private, obviously, but he doesn't hide any of the work, which is, I think I really appreciate about his feed. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's just kind of a fun aside. He's 6'5".
Yeah.
You're right. He's 6'5". Yeah. I guess that brings us into the Internet Minute, which is where I can point you towards the reason that I'm able to do this show, and that is you. If you head to patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe, you can find ways to support the show financially, and I thank everyone that has done that very, very much. It is the first week of the month, which means that Patreon is doing its whole payroll thing, and it's charging all the people that have supported over the last few weeks. And sending it my way. And it's things that I can then reinvest into the show. It allows me to take the time to prep. It allows me to take the time to edit and produce the show and post it up on the website and stuff and get it distributed out to everybody. If you decide to support the show, then you get some bonus stuff like access to the Discord, which is a place where we all hang out and talk about geeky stuff throughout the week. I also give heads up in the Discord when I do streaming. So whether that's an art stream or a Minecraft stream or something on Twitch, I usually announce when I'm live on Twitter, but I usually give a heads up, like, hey, I'm going to do an art stream later this afternoon at 3 p.m. or something like that. I might toss that into the Discord. It's a great community. We're welcoming in some new folks that have come in through Twitch, through my own personal Patreon, but also, of course, patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. And we also do bonus episodes. We haven't done one in a while, so I'm looking to kind of return to doing another barista cut sometime this summer. Those just come in free for patrons. They just show up in your feed like everything else, but it's like an extra bonus episode. But my pick this week to go along with the Internet Minute is the Steam Summer Sale. I am sure that we will hear more about this from Lou next week, because this is a video game summer sale in the Steam store. However, it's over on July 9th, which is going to be over before Lou is back on the podcast. So I wanted to bring it up this week. I also picked up a game, which I don't normally do, but it was 75% off for $8.24, and it's called City Skylines. Yeah, that's what I mean. No. So there are some games like City Skylines, which is basically like a modern Sim City, like a city builder. I've seen this played. Some of the people that I watched play Minecraft and Hermitcraft have played City Skylines on their Twitch on like an off day just for something relaxing to do and hang out with their crowd. And it looks fun. It looks really chill. It looks like the kind of like, if you like organizing a wall full of sticky notes, then I think that City Skylines might be up your alley. Not something that I would
calling me out.
Not that something that I would look at and say, yeah, I'll spend $30 on that, because I just don't. Not sight unseen. I would have to try it first, blah, blah, blah. But for $8, a pint costs $9. So if I enjoy this for an hour, it was worth the $8. The trick is for me is going to be to find the time to play it, because usually when I stream and play a video game and do something with the community, it's usually Minecraft, because that's mostly what people want. But I also want to kind of avoid falling in the trap of just being a single game streamer. So I'm going to try some City Skylines probably on the next rainy day. I'm not going to be doing this anytime soon, because it looks like it's going to be sunny for a bit. But the next time that it's a rainy weekend, you can bet your butt I'm going to be spending some time on Twitch with my new $8 video game. So if you want to check it out, it's the link will be in the show notes. But of course, it's the Steam Summer Sale. You can find it quite easily on Google. Other good deals like Borderlands 2 and a few other games are in the realm of 50 to 75% off. Not all games are that much of a discount. Sometimes it's just 10%, but there are a lot to choose from. So depending on what your platform is, you might find something that you like. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Citadel Cafe. You can find out more about the show as well as links to all the things that Megan and I talked about today at thecitadelcafe.com. The music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod, and you can email us at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com or find us by name on Twitter and Facebook. We are available on iTunes, Android, Stitcher, and Spotify. And I am available at joelduggan.com. You can find everything I'm doing there. You can link to me on social media. It is just my name. I'm very easy to find. And hey, check out my other podcast, The Spawn Chunks, at thespawnchunks.com. That is the show that I do all about Minecraft with my friend Johnny. Megan, where can people find you online?
People can find me online on Twitter and Instagram at Megan Townsend, on YouTube at just Megan Townsend. And if you want to follow my personal project, The Heir of Keldanan, that is also on Instagram too.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.